When did you last feel truly bored? Not the restless boredom of waiting for a page to load, not the 2 seconds between switching apps. I mean the real thing, the kind that lasted hours, the kind that had nowhere to go, the kind that felt like it might last forever. Most people alive today, under the age of 30, have never experienced that. Not once. And that is not a small thing. That is a civilizational shift. Because boredom is not the absence of something. Boredom is the presence of a very specific mental state, one that neuroscientists now believe is essential to being human. And we have eliminated it, almost completely, without a single study, without a single warning, without even noticing it was gone. To understand what we lost, we need to go back, not far, just to the 1980s, to the last generation that was structurally forced to be bored, and to understand what that boredom actually did to their brains. There is a network inside your brain. Scientists call it the default mode network. For decades, it was considered irrelevant. The brain doing nothing, they assumed. They were wrong. When your brain has no external task to focus on, when there is no screen, no podcast, no notification, your brain does not rest. It goes to work on the most complex tasks it knows. It consolidates memories. It processes unresolved emotions. It builds your sense of self. It rehearses future scenarios. It generates creative connections between unrelated ideas. This is where your best ideas come from. This is where your personality forms. This is where you figure out who you are. The children of the 1980s spent hours in this state every single day, not because they were wiser, not because their parents planned it, but because there was nothing else to do. The absence of alternatives was the architecture of their inner life. Now consider what replaced it. Not one distraction, not two, an infinite, algorithmically optimized system engineered by the most sophisticated minds on Earth to make sure you never experience a single second of boredom. Think about that. The elimination of boredom is not a side effect. It is the product. Every second you spend not bored is a second you are generating data. Every moment of stillness you avoid is a moment they have captured. We have handed the architecture of our inner lives to people who profit from its destruction. But the brain does not stop needing what it always needed. It just never gets it. And the research on what happens when you deprive a developing brain of unstructured idle time is not ambiguous. Creativity declines. The ability to tolerate discomfort collapses. Emotional regulation weakens. Self-knowledge becomes shallow, and anxiety fills the space where the self should be. This is not speculation. This is what happens when you remove the default mode network from a developing human life. You do not get a better stimulated person. You get a person who has never had the chance to become themselves. There is a particular kind of afternoon. It exists now only in memory. 3 o'clock on a Wednesday in summer. School is out, parents are at work. There is nothing scheduled. There is nothing to watch. There is nowhere to be. For the 1980s child, this was every day, and that child had no choice but to go inward or outward
or sideways into imagination. There was no algorithm to make that decision for them. No one had optimized the afternoon for engagement. The afternoon just was. And in that vast, unstructured nothing, something was being built. A tolerance for silence, a relationship with one's own mind, a capacity for self-generated meaning. These are not small things. These are the foundations of a psychologically stable human being. And we stopped building them. Around 2012, the year smartphone ownership among teenagers crossed 50%. Before that line, gradual changes. After that line, a cliff. The research on adolescent mental health shows it clearly. Something broke in 2012, and what broke was not a coincidence. It was the elimination of unstructured time from the developing mind. Now, I want to be careful here. This is not an argument for suffering. This is not nostalgia for a time that was simpler or better in every way. The 1980s had real problems, but the problems we have created are internal. We have built a world that has solved for every physical discomfort, while creating a psychological environment of unprecedented fragility. And the irony is profound. The more we protected young people from boredom, the more fragile they became. The more we filled every idle moment, the less capacity they had to be alone with themselves. This is the boredom paradox. You cannot outsource the construction of a self. No app can replace the 3 o'clock Wednesday afternoon. No algorithm knows what you need to sit with. No content can do what the void does. I think about this when I watch a child reach for a phone. The gesture is so fast, so automatic, so practiced. They never had to learn it, and they will never know what they missed unless someone tells them. So I am telling you, you used to be bored, and in that boredom something essential was happening, something that cannot be scheduled, something that cannot be optimized, something that can only be allowed.